When conducting excavation and trenching that's deeper than 1.5 metres, additional control measures are required. But why is that? Well, if a trench wall is to fall in on somebody, it's quite likely to crush, trap or suffocate them. So what is it that we can do to avoid this? I want you to have a look at these 3 key steps. Firstly, we want to look at stabilising the edges. Secondly, we want to keep heavy things away from those edges. And thirdly, identify and manage any in-ground surfaces that we may come in contact with. So firstly, to stop it from collapsing, we stabilise the edges by removing any soil that can freely fall. Now this is done by benching, which is the cutting in of terraces or steps, battering, which is the cutting in of the edges at an angle, and lastly, we can shore the hole, and this is done by installing a rigid case or reinforcement. Now this shoring is typically done for deeper excavations where benching and battering would require too much space and isn't practical. 2. We keep the edges clear. Now we can erect signage or pull up a quick windrow, but the key point is to keep anything at least 1 metre away from the edges. This ensures that additional strain is not placed on the edges of the trenches, which may cause it to collapse. Thirdly, we identify services. Now services can create a mixed bag of potential dramas. Gas could pull in the hole and suffocate. Electricity can shock or cause fire. And any water may wash away the sides of the trenches, or if old mate passes out in there, then certainly may drown. So we want to check our ASCONs or our die before dig plans so we can identify and manage these risks before we get started. So let's recap. Firstly, we want to bench, batter or shore the sides so they won't collapse and we've got them nice and stable. Secondly, we want to keep heavy things at least 1 metre away from the edges of that trench. And thirdly, we want to identify any surfaces which may shock, suffocate or crush our old mate. This is not an extensive list, but certainly the key points to consider for any excavation that's deeper than 1.5 metres.